Get off of your chair, awesome this year, I promise it's here. So watch, rate, comment, and share. And click this up, listen up, I'm telling you all of this because it's just begun. Hit me with some videos from Siggy Guns.
Yo, Ziggy here, bringing you week 4 of Fantasy Start and Sit-em. Had a pretty good week last week. Obviously I was kind of wrong about Fitzgerald and Wes Welker, but that's alright. This week is week 4, so that is the start of the bye weeks for teams. There's only 2 teams this week, Indianapolis Colts and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, if you have Ben Roethlisberger, Andrew Luck, Mike Wallace, Antonio Brown, Mendenhall, and Donald Brown, you're probably going to go ahead and obviously sit them. Hopefully you don't start them. You don't want to get stuck with a spot that's benched because of the bye week and then you wasted your spot. So make sure you change your lineups. I don't have any players from today's game on the Fantasy Start and Sit-em list. The Cleveland Browns against the Baltimore Ravens. So let's get started. QB on the start list, Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning's playing against Oakland. You saw what Roethlisberger did last week against Oakland. Manning has been throwing the ball good, so as much as we've been giving him a hard time, or I've been giving him a hard time about his arm or stuff like that, he's constantly throwing 300 yards still, so he's still Peyton Manning. And I expect, a high 300-yard game, 2 to 3 touchdowns. Wouldn't shock me if it's 4 against this team. So Oakland, Denver should be mile-high shootout. Go ahead and start Manning. Phillip Rivers is also my start list. He's playing against Kansas City. Kansas City's been giving up a lot of points, so I expect Phillip Rivers, another one of those division games where it should be high scoring, and I think Phillip Rivers is going to have a monster game. This one was on the fence. I put Matthew Stafford on the start list because I know a lot of people are probably concerned and hesitant about the injury that he received last week. And it's looking like he should be fine. It's a hip injury. A lot of people thought maybe it was hamstring. They're listing it as hip. They're not saying that he won't play. I'm going to go ahead and assume that he is going to play. If he does play, it's a pretty good matchup. He should have a huge game. Obviously, he's a major part of the offense. But playing Minnesota, and they're at home though. And Minnesota, while they did good against the 49ers last week, I don't think they can stop Stafford and company. So start Matthew Stafford. I think he should have a good game. On the sit list, Matt Cassel. Like I said, Kansas City San Diego game could be a high-scoring game, but Matt Cassel is not really that piece of the offense that everybody's concerned with. Jamal Charles looks like he's back. He had 230-something yards rushing last week. I think you're going to see a lot of more Jamal Charles going forward. Matt Cassel should be a decent quarterback, but he's not a high fantasy option at this point. Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's playing New England. They are at home, but you saw what happened whenever a defense goes in there and starts picking him off. He's going to be throwing probably a lot of interceptions. Fitzpatrick just isn't somebody that you should start fantasy-wise. He's like fool's gold. There's stats where he'll throw 3 touchdowns and 250 yards, but then at the same time he'll have 4 interceptions and 2 fumbles lost and kind of destroy those stats. So Ryan Fitzpatrick, I don't have any confidence against him against New England. On the sit list also, which is kind of a shock because I actually like him against this team, but Josh Freeman, I don't think he's going to have that big of a game against Washington. I think you're going to see more teams start figuring out Tampa's offense is going to be running around Doug Martin and shutting down Vincent Jackson. So I think if you shut down Vincent Jackson, I don't think Josh Freeman has much of an option but to try to go for Mike Williams. And we've already seen that combo last year. It doesn't work out anymore. So Josh Freeman on the sit list. On the running back, start him. BenJarvis, Greene, Ellis. I think he's going to have a huge game. Cincinnati's playing Jacksonville. Jacksonville's been giving up a lot of fantasy points, and I think he's definitely going to be in line for a great game on the ground. Greene, Ellis should be able to at least hit the pager once. I'd say about 86 yards, touchdown, a few receiving yards is probably his game. Should have a good fantasy game. Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lynch has been doing great for Seattle. Seattle's running the ball real good. They're playing St. Louis, so great fantasy matchup there. I will start pretty much every option in Seattle at this point, but Marshawn Lynch for sure. Also in the start list, a lot of people have him hesitant to start him last week. He got 44 yards, but Ryan Matthews is back. He is the starter. Like I said, Kansas City's been giving up a lot of points fantasy-wise, so I expect Ryan Matthews to have a pretty big game. If he had 44 yards on part-time duty, he should have a pretty good 100-yard, maybe even a touchdown game against Kansas City. On the sit-em list, I got Matt Forte. Obviously, Matt Forte is coming back from injury. I wouldn't, start him yet. I'm not sure if he is for certain going to get all the carries or if he's going to play at all, but he is playing against a tough run defensive team in Dallas. Dallas did do good to stop Doug Martin. Dallas has been a pretty good defense. Obviously, whenever they had Marshawn Lynch against him in Seattle a couple weeks ago, you know, Marshawn did some things, but I don't think Forte is at that level yet coming back from his injury. Another person on the sit-em list, obviously, Shonn Greene for the New York Jets. Shonn Greene has been horrible. There's starting to be rumbles that maybe Powell's going to start getting more of the carries. Shonn Greene is not a fantasy option right now at this point, and especially I think this week against the San Francisco 49ers. They're coming off an embarrassing loss against the Vikings, and I expect them to shut everybody down to the Jets. CJ Spiller, unfortunately for every fantasy owner, with the injury that he occurred was not major. He could possibly back this week. I'm not sure if he will. I'm not sure if the team will, as long as they have Fred Jackson back healthy. And another guy that they're bringing back slowly. So I would suggest sitting CJ Spiller, even Fred Jackson if I can put him on my list, just because I'm not sure if the Bills are going to be able to pump him out with a whole bunch of carries, because they're obviously major pieces of the offense. On the wide receiver stardom was A.J. Greene. A.J. Greene has proven that he is probably the most underrated top receiver in the league right now. He's been having monster games. Dalton and A.J. Greene are for real, and there's no reason why you shouldn't start A.J. Greene in any game, but in this game in particular, especially Jacksonville, like I said, lots of fantasy points we had. A.J. Greene in line for a huge game. Percy Harvin, Minnesota. Now, Minnesota, I don't expect a lot out of Detroit. However, they should be behind in the game, in my opinion, and they're going to try to match the offensive output by Detroit. So Percy Harvin is the key. Obviously, Adrian Peterson is also there, but Percy Harvin on the ground and in the air should have a monster game. And like I said earlier on the start list for quarterbacks with Peyton Manning, I think he's going to have a big game. So Demaruis Thomas should have a huge game also for the Broncos. Start him with confidence. He should be very good in this play, because I expect Manning to throw a bunch of yards, close to the 350 range, and Thomas should have at least 110, maybe more, and probably even a touchdown in there. On the sit-em list, Stevie Johnson, Buffalo. Like I said, Fitzpatrick I think is going to have a bad game, and the defense is going to key on their best playmaker, which is Stevie Johnson at this point, with Spiller and Fred Jackson, being questionable. Stevie Johnson is probably going to be the main focus of the defenses. So they're going to shut him down, and in turn, it's going to turn Buffalo's offense pretty weak. So Stevie Johnson, sit him. Vincent Jackson, Tampa Bay, like I said, I'm not sure about Josh Freeman's connection with Mike Williams at this point. Obviously, if I were Washington, I'd be shutting down their main offensive weapons, which is Vincent Jackson and Doug Martin. So Jackson should have a tough game. Now, Seattle, I did say they have a very good matchup with St. Louis. However, I think Golden Tate has given himself the last 2 weeks a name for himself. He made that big hit on Shonn Lee for the Cowboys. He already had a target in his back, and now he's coming off a week where the referees give him a touchdown when he clearly wrestled interception away. So he's going to have a target in his back. Now, I'm not saying that somebody's going to go out there and harm him or anything like that, but I think that they're going to go ahead and pay more attention to Golden Tate, and I foresee a frustrating day for him against St. Louis. On the tight ends, I'm not really sure if I want to go forward with the tight ends anymore, because obviously if you have your star tight ends, you're going to start them. If you have bad tight ends, you're probably not even going to have them on your team. But this week, Peters should be good, Dennis Peters should be good, Fred Davis and Antonio Gates should be good to go. On the sit list, I have Mercedes Lewis, Anthony Fasano, and Jared Cook. So that's week 4 of the Fantasy Starting Sit-em. My name's Ziggy. Good luck, and yeah, peace.